front wheel's already off. There's a video already on my page that's just for front wheel removal, so it's already broken out rather than repeating stuff. So now to get the fork off, big thing, you got 22mm bolt on here. It's always best to unseat this to break both these before you get out of the clamp, rather than trying to monkey around with it when the fork's in your hand. So, and obviously you got these two clamps, but before then I got gaiters on mine, so obviously I got to take these off, but you got to get the fender off as well. So, and then if you got a Bonnie or T100, you got the round bar going around. So got the round bar. You also got these clips for your brake cable and your speedo cable. All that's gonna have to come out to get the fender off, because obviously we need to get the fender off before we get the forks off. Now, I do this just for a visual reference, so I know exactly where I'm at when I go back. But I take a Sharpie and I like to measure. So you don't want to do this, and don't. This is just something I like to do to myself. You got that marked. Then it's just a matter of, I'm going to start at the fender, then my gaiters, and clamp bolts. Once I start loosening things up, getting them off, I'll be back at you. Alright, we're back. This has changed into just a fork oil change. I'm not changing the springs out. I'll explain in a minute as I demonstrate this leg on you. So make sure we got a marking. We know how much gap we want, so when we send the leg back through, we're not estimating. Also make sure 22mm, and you want to break this bolt before we get it out of the triple tree. Good enough. And then $8mm, and we got these two from the tree. The only things left holding it on. That is not 27mm. The monkey is hanging on that thing. And then they're slowly just going to work out. So, now as you can see, I got 4 gaiters. I'll get this off. Long story short, the springs I'm wanting to put on these are significantly longer than the stock springs. Long story short, you'll see it once I get in here, but the spacer on this stock setup, man, the spacer in here is like way long, and I only need like a 10mm spacer to put the new springs on. But being here in Japan, I just can't get parts. Story of my life. And I have a hiccup about cutting stock parts. I know a lot of people do it, and but being overseas for 20 years and how these bikes can be, getting them on the road, I'm not cutting up stock parts. I save my stock parts. I box them up, save them, because you never know down the road where I'm going to. So this turned into just an oil change. And then hopefully I get back stateside, or I can source a 34mm pipe and cut that myself. Pretty sad I can't get pipe. So, alright. Okay, taking apart your fork so you can see what's in here. First things off, we only loosen this because you're not going to do it if it's tightened down, because it's just going to turn on you. So this is loose, but under here is your spacer and then your spring. So this is under pressure. So and these are real fine long threads. So when you take this off, don't be looking over top of it like this and get a nice kiss. Just kind of, and also remember you got oil in here as well. So just kind of keep your face away from it, and you just kind of turn it slowly out. That's and you get to a point where you feel you do it by hand. You just do that a lot of times, kind of like a champagne cork. Just sit there and catch it. If you do it right, it's not going to come flying out on you. It's going to feel a little bit of a tension, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's when you're not respecting it and just flying through the motions. That's when somebody usually gets kissed. There, that's it. Okay, so we got our cap, rubber washer, and we got old oil in here. So this is the behemoth of a spacer. Then you got your spacer there. Then take your fork, stanchion, send it down, and you're going to see oil. Now, I like to get the stuff out before I dump the oil out. So, underneath here is a washer that I'm going to go fishing for right now. There's your washer. So I'm just putting it down on the paper in order. Then we have our very short, very soft stock spring. And then we got our oil. Give me 2 seconds, because this is a one-man backyard operation. Give me 2 seconds, I'll get this camera situated and I'll show you how I dump the oil out. Starting off, I'm definitely just tip it over and start dumping it out. This looks like a transmission fluid that was used on this. Now, there's a rebound rod in here that this screw in here connects to, and that's obviously what gives the rebound on this. So, nothing should be coming out. But, just give that little bit of extra attention and watch what you're doing, because we live in a coulda, shoulda world sometimes. So, I guess what I'm trying to say, even though nothing is supposed to come out, that doesn't mean something's going to come out on you. Then, as you start seeing it trickle, help it along and start pumping it out. Hopefully you're getting this on camera. And then, what I do, I just have a little thing here set up that I'm just going to let it hang and drip for a little while because I want everything out. I want to drip out. Now I want to show you something over here and why this is only an oil change, even though I got some really nice springs I want to put in this bike. Okay, you just saw the fork come out and what's involved with that. Your top clamp or nut, your spacer, your washer, your spring, and you got the leg in there draining oil. This obviously is your stock spring, real short, very soft, almost designed for a 5'5" woman, if you ask me. Here are the kick-ass new springs I want to put in this bike. Now, when I lay this up next to it, you see, look at that difference. Okay, stock, new, aftermarket. Kick-ass, awesome, however you want to label it. Those are the two differences with those springs. Okay, now, as you can see, there's a sizable difference in the length. Keep in mind, your leg is about up here. Why you have a spacer like that? Wouldn't it be nice where if we had like this much spring and only that much spacer, but we don't, not for a stock setup. So putting those two next to each other like that, I guess where I'm getting at, so you can see it for yourselves, but in no way in hell you're going to use this spacer on this spring. No big deal, right? It's a piece of metal. It's a friggin' pipe. Go to plumber store, whatever. I don't have to have Triumph. It's a friggin' pipe and a spacer. Well, guess what? In Japan, they don't have the right size. This is a 34 millimeter. And I only need 10 millimeter spacer now. Just enough to engage the spring to activate and to get this cap on, of course with the washer on here and then the cap on, just enough to get it to engage and activate it and to tighten it. That's all you want the spacer for. And basically if it's not the size you need, then you get the size you need or you make the size you need. But in Japan, 34 millimeter is an odd number. The standard size is 32 millimeter. So I'm 2 millimeter off on the diameter of this pipe. And I don't know how many different plumbing stores, plumbing hardware, you name it. Went to a local hardware shop, and yeah, this is a standard fork. Of course they can get it for me. 25 bucks. 25 bucks, and then I gotta cut it. You know, and or I could just very easily mark off 10 millimeter and then mark it off and be good to go and use this new spring. Only thing is, just from riding motorcycles overseas for this many years now, I've learned it's a dangerous thing to start cutting up stock parts. It's not like it is in the States where your bike, you know, your possession, you do whatever the hell you want with it, freedom and all that good stuff. It's not like that overseas. So I'm very leery and I'm very hesitant of cutting up my stock parts. I don't like to do it. So, and I'm in the backyard, not in the garage, so I got the bike up on a lift, literally in the grass. So I'm going to try to source a pipe. I am not going to spend $25 on a piece of metal to cut it down to 10 millimeter and then just have a spacer. I would freaking check myself in an insane asylum if I spend that kind of money on a friggin' hook of metal. Just not doing it. So this is just an oil change now. But these are your springs. If this was a spring change, I would be putting this in, and I would have my nice little 10 millimeter spacer. You know, I would run my washer on my spring, run my 10 millimeter spacer on that, push down, clamp it, get it to activate, and start the thread. That's not happening. We're staying with stock springs. Alright, filling the leg. First you need something upright to keep it upright, I should say. I have a vice, if you have a bicycle stand or anything you want to rig, but I have that and I just, you know, wrap it up in a towel, rag, and just make sure it's just tight enough to hold it. Obviously you don't want to be marring up your stuff. Now, per the manual, oil level, you need, I believe, 484 cc of oil, and it has to be 120 millimeter from the oil level to the top. Now, people use a ruler, tape. I used to do the tape and ruler method until wife hooked me up with one of those special thingamajigs to do it, so it makes life real easy. You don't have to have it though. A couple things before you do it. You want to make sure all the oil's out, obviously, and then your extension tube, make sure it's all the way down. Also, another thing, when you got this out, cherry blossom season, petals are fucking flying all over the place. It's a good idea. I always check my leg here. You want to make sure your seal's good. The cup on this is good. It's not cracked. You'd be surprised how easy it is to get a crack on a pothole or whatever. So just give a good visual inspection of your stuff. And then so 484 cc's is the exact amount we're supposed to be putting in. So we're going to start off by putting it in. If you're outside like I am, wait till a gust of wind is down. And just start putting in. Said I'm a one-man operation here, so you can't see. Obviously, I can't get this in to show you, but it's gurgling right now. It's going gurgle, 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 and you got air bubbles coming up, siphoning up. You want to get all this out before you start putting this fork together. So you just kind of, manual says to do it for 15 minutes, but you just kind of evenly and gently bring that up. Back down. And you just keep doing this. And you're going to see the level drop. But more importantly, not just that, but all your air bubbles are slowly going to dissipate out. And you're just going to have a nice, smooth, thick level of fluid. So do that off camera and then show you how to top it off. 120 millimeter from top of the fluid level with this leg push down. So we got marked off at 120. We'll stick that in here. Once again, like I say, if you don't have this tool and you don't want this tool, tape measure works just as fine. So, make sure you have a reading. We're at 120, and then keeping this as flush as possible. Get started. Just gonna suck it out. Well, and I can read a beaker. Okay, we're good. We're at 120 from the top. Get this out. Get this out of the vise and start putting stuff together. All the way down. I've got the spring, which is my new one. It's not. Got another spacer. Washer, excuse me. And we got spacer. And we're going to bring this up. And I think I need to use the ground here. Really fine thread on this. So you just got to get the catch. Don't stand over it and stare it down, or you're going to get kissed. So I'm going to keep this flat and then just kind of turn it so you get it to catch. So, and then, because I'm always paranoid, I always go a lot with my hand. If I can go this much with my hand, even with gloves on and a slippery hand, then I know I got a real good thread on this. And I haven't stripped, or I'm sorry, I haven't cross-threaded it. Do not want to cross-thread this, obviously. So even with oily and latex gloves and stuff, I got a good thread on it. I'm gonna tighten this up, 22 millimeter. Obviously we're not going to get this to spec because it's just going to turn in our hands, so we have to get it back on the bike and just get it to as much as you can. No reason to go monkey on it and break your back. And that's the inside of your forks, and that's how it's set up, how you change the oil. Set up, and I'll show you how I button this up and get it to where you get both sides aligned and you got your same space. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I know everybody has a different technique or whatever, but if you're not familiar, this is how I button up my forks. It works pretty good for me. I use my fender to help out with this. So you saw me in the beginning mark the mount off here with the marker. I also have a measurement on my caliper. So, but then, you know, it's just too much of a pain to try to do it individually, because then you got fenders to mount up and wheels and brakes and everything. So I put the fender on, button the fender up to the fork, and that's going to square it off, and then it's just one shot on a measure to get everything done. It's better putting this thing back together. So, but let me show you rather than talking. Now we'll have the forks working in unison and be able to get our measurement and then follow up with our 8mm to snap, to lock it into place. It was just a lot easier. A lot easier, a lot more thorough, I think, to do it this way. Now you got them working together, and you know everything else is going to line up as far as your round bar and your brakes, your wheel, and all that other stuff. Come up a little bit. Your axle. There, but I ran my axle through. This is easy. Point of leverage. Come up. There we go. Just came up a little bit too far. Where we want to be. Let's cinch this off. Alright, I'm finishing this up. The top bolts here are 23 Nm. You do have to get your handlebar off so you can get a torque wrench in on that. Have a pain just to tighten it up, but nothing you can do about it. And then your 4 clamp bolts here are at 27 Nm. I'm going to set that. There's 8mm. At least I got new oil. Can't enjoy my new springs just yet, though. Such is life. Got the pressure for a while. Now, I got fork gators on mine. I love them. Now's the time to put these on. Okay, now round bar. have it. You're going to run the speedo cable through here, a little loop here, brake cable through here, and to get the rest of it, just refer back to the video on installing your front tire. And that's the oil change for it, and putting them back on. Save yourself a lot of grief and headache, especially if you buy yourself like me. Put your fender on here, or your mud guard, whatever you call it. Run your axle through, keeping your pinch bolts loose, and then just measure and have everything work together as one. It's a lot easier that way, especially when you buy yourself. And that's the operation. Hope you got something out of it.